effectively ratify it as a variant of humanity. 2. The medical and clinical community believes that it is necessary for transsexuals to be verified or acknowledged by a physician, or more desirably, a psychiatrist, before they undergo permanent life-altering treatments like surgery or hormone therapy. It is easier for clinicians to maintain tabs on transsexuals if they have already been identified through a mental illness screening process. Coincidentally, self-identification to an overseeing physician or psychiatrist also makes it easier for that doctor to perform research upon their patient without having to go looking for them. Talking about one's transsexuality or gender dysphoria to a clinician provides that clinician with a wider base of knowledge upon which to conduct their activities. 3. Transsexuals reportedly have higher rates of psychopathology than their quote-unquote normal peers, especially in the area of mood disorders. 4. Most practically, GID is seen by outside organizations like insurance agencies as legitimate when it is endorsed as a form of illness by a forum such as the American Psychiatric Association. This means that transsexuals are technically granted better access to medical, surgical, and psychiatric care that is covered by insurance providers. Under closer inspection, this argument does not hold completely true. In the United States, very few insurance agencies will agree to reimburse a client for sexual reassignment surgery, SRS, that is meant to specifically treat gender identity disorder. Some individuals with GID obtain financing for their surgeries on technical grounds, as when they have a concurrent disorder, such as being intersex, that more legitimately warrants physical sex-altering surgery. In Canada, and specifically in Ontario, SRS was recently restored to the list of medical procedures covered by the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, OHIP, but applicants must go through a single certified clinic in Toronto. This means that people in certain areas of the province have limited or no access to covered surgery depending on their level of mobility and transportation arrangements. Other applicants have problems with Toronto's Gender Identity Clinic, located within the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH, because they do not agree with the rules and regulations or have views that conflict with those of the resident clinicians. OHIP covered surgery is rendered inaccessible to other patients who cannot or will not wait for it. Depending on the surgery, wait times can be upwards of 2 years. Additionally, OHIP only covers surgery with certain surgeons, and given that SRS is often a very aesthetically concerned procedure, some patients have preferences regarding their choice of practitioners. Ultimately, GID patients who wish to have their surgeon of choice perform the surgery must pay for it themselves, especially when the surgeon is located outside of Ontario or Canada. The cost of SRS varies given the specific procedure involved, but can be anywhere from less than $2,000 for an orchiectomy, removal of the testes, around $5,000 for breast enhancement or chest reconfiguration, or upwards of $20,000 for genital surgeries. Some people with persistent GID see sex work as their only way to gather enough resources to afford surgical interventions. Maintaining gender identity disorder as a mental illness controls access to sex hormones, particularly the potent and much abused testosterone preparation. The Harry Benjamin International Gender Dysphoria Association's Standards of Care, SOC, for gender identity disorders state that candidates for hormone therapy of either sex should have at least 3 months documented experience living as the other gender or at least 3 months of psychotherapy with a mental health professional. As with the prescribed wait times for SRS, wait times for hormones take on a decidedly penal tone, and most transsexuals spend this period in a state of agonized frustration. Others circumvent the waiting period by getting a letter from their psychotherapist or finding a sympathetic doctor who is willing to disregard the standards of care in favor of their patient's mental well-being. Keeping gender identity disorder in the DSM also maintains clinical power over transsexual bodies. Power to withhold hormones and surgeries that may drastically improve the transsexual's quality of life. Many trans people argue that they, not clinicians, should be the ones to decide when they are ready for life-altering courses of treatment, and that they don't require extensive psychotherapy to figure out what they need. My story. I am what has sometimes been referred to as a secondary transsexual. That is, a transsexual whose symptoms of gender identity disorder did not present until after their biological sex had asserted itself in their behavior. In other words, I was socialized as a girl before I learned that I was meant to be a boy or masculine person. I currently view myself as transsexual by technicality only. By way, by that I mean that I do not relate to the sense of being a man trapped in a woman's body or switching from one sex or gender to the other. I prefer to view sex and gender as continuums that I am somewhere in the middle of, possibly closer to one pole than the other, but always shifting, changing, morphing into something else. I came into my gender identity when I was 18 and in the process of recovering from various other mental illnesses. Thus, I fall into the category of transsexuals who embody some psychopathology other than just GID on its own, particularly a form of mood disorder. Like some other people before me, I found a way to get around the waiting periods for both hormones and surgery. I found a doctor sympathetic to my cause and lobbied for my own rights, simply stating that the standards of care could not possibly apply to every single case of transsexuality in the world. Surely there were exceptions, and I was one. My doctor agreed with me and placed me on a therapeutic dose of testosterone. I quickly learned how to inject hormones by myself, and within 6 months I was experiencing a second puberty, this time of the male variety. However, I wasn't finished yet. I was still displeased with my physical body, and I was on the hunt for a surgeon who could provide me with results that would meet my rather high expectations. In October of 2008, I located the right surgeon for me. Incidentally, he worked only 5 hours away from my place of residence. And in January of 2009, I set out with my camera person and my mother to Cleveland, Ohio for SRS. My surgery was successful, and with supporting documents signed by my surgeon, I was able to legally change the gender marker on all of my government-issued identification. Today I live as a genderqueer person with masculine traits. I do not define myself as male or female. I just go with the flow, wearing my gender one way one day, and one way the other. I am a transsexual fighting for the right for trans people to regulate their own bodies and to hold the power in their hands, to be able to decide for themselves when they are ready for surgical or other medical interventions. Some research in the field has proven that less than 3% of transsexuals interviewed regretted having genital surgery. That means that over 97% of these people were pleased with the decision they had made. I believe that's an excellent result. I would actually be dubious if the rate was 100%. It is almost guaranteed that some people will eventually, for some reason, change their minds about any given topic. Genital structure being no different. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Wow, I just realized how long this thing was. That's all I've got for now. If you have any suggestions about it, give me a shout. But my voice really hurts and I need to go smoke. So, see you guys later.